Don't let the Thanksgiving turkey send you into a rest of season food coma. Rethink how you value these top 7 players who we need to adjust expectations for down the stretch. That's right. All this and more. It's a holiday edition of the IBT podcast coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy, call him Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking, RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome into the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. And Thanksgiving is here, just as most fantasy football leagues are entering the last week of the regular season. We'll tell you what you need to know the rest of the way with our top 7 players that we need to adjust expectations for moving forward. We'll do that and also give you our betting cards right here on IBT. We will also do it in a pretty fun way by comparing them to Thanksgiving dishes and happenings. I'm your host, Seth Wilcock, cooking in the lab a few days before a busy day of traveling on Wednesday. No Steve Lawson, no Eric Romoff, no Kyle Scott on the program this week, but we are joined by a man who is as dependable as your uncle, likely making an off-color joke after dinner. He's the Taysom Hill of IBT. He's a jack of all, master of none. He does golf, he does entertainment betting, and he does NFL betting and fantasy football content. He's Hot Take Jake Perry. Jacob, how are you? And happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you as well. I'm ready for the food. I'm so ready for the food. I've been like clean on my diet for a while now. I'm ready to just let it all eat for a day.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, man. What is the food you're looking forward to the most? Is it the turkey or is it the side dishes that you're more looking forward to?
Oh, it's the sides. I do a smoked turkey. I prefer ham, as you know, we may allude to in a little bit here.
Agreed.
But I do a smoked turkey. It's pretty good, but the mac and cheese, mashed potatoes, stuffing, give me all that. I could live without the protein if I really had to on Thanksgiving.
I'm with you there, and I gotta have mac and cheese at a Thanksgiving at
Yes.
some point in my life because it's just not a Pennsylvania thing. I've never had it at any of our Thanksgivings. I don't know why.
You're missing out. It goes with everything. You mix a little the mac and cheese in the mashed potatoes. You take some of the stuffing, turns into cheesy stuffing. Bite a ham or turkey with a little mac and cheese right there.
Yeah.
If you got some of the Hawaiian rolls like we do out here, take the Hawaiian rolls, a little bit of turkey, little mac and cheese on top, little slider right there. Oh, it's so good. You have to.
I'm glad to hear it's not just a Southern thing as well, because you're in the Midwest. So maybe I can eventually creep that into our holiday and Thanksgiving menu specifically. Appreciate you being here nonetheless and putting your hunger on hold for at least another 48 hours or so. As always, before we get into the program, shout out to everyone who is making us a part of their busy holiday week, either on the In Between Media YouTube channel or the audio feed. We are very, very thankful for all the support so far this season, especially during the holidays. Things pick up, it gets busy. So anytime you spend with us, we are grateful for. Also, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this type of content. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Looks like we got our friend Ben already checking in. What's up, Ben? Great to see you. Ben, you guys doing mac and cheese out there in Vegas? I know Ben's a Vegas kid, so let us know, Ben. I'm curious what's on your Thanksgiving menu. As everyone, go ahead and drop your comments below. We're excited to hear your Thanksgiving takes. If you have any holiday comparisons to fantasy football players, we want to hear that as well. And if you want more than just our takes right here on the program, make sure y'all are checking out the IBT Football Family. That's our premium community where you can get access to our full betting cards, our Discord chat, memorabilia giveaways, and entry into our touchdown contest, all for just $3.99 per month or $36 for the year. You're also going to get access to our NASCAR family and betting model. Plus, we have some more sports on the way in the new year. The link to that is in the episode description. as is the link to this week's presenting sponsor, PropDecks, a platform reimagining fantasy sports with prop-based lineups. That's right. Just set your lineup by choosing players from a live pool, no drafts or no season-long commitments. Next, go ahead and pick your props ranging from safe to bold by selecting presets or customizing your picks for maximum points and control. The harder the prop, the more fantasy points you can earn. Then let your players just do all the work, baby. Watch your point totals climb. You can join free-to-play, enter PropDecks tournaments to win gift cards to major apparel brands, custom merch, and much more. Or go ahead and jump in their community-hosted games with friends, private groups, or other online players. You can stack your props, score big, and own Sundays now by downloading the PropDecks app today from the iOS App Store. The link, once again, in the episode description. It's a great way to have a little bit more fun with your betting cards each and every weekend. I took down one of these tournaments a couple weeks ago, so guys got to come beat me for the top spot, I think, over there on PropDecks. And Jake, what do you say we jump right into it here with our players we need to adjust expectations for?
Let's do it, but also you got to start watching out for me on these streets over there because I'm diving headfirst into PropDecks. It's so much fun.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that, man. Yeah, I think this week I'm going to go a little more conservative. The last couple of weeks I've been either all or nothing. I'm either in first or I'm dead last. So you can parlay picks over there too. So it's a lot of fun. The strategy's a little bit to get a hold of, but really, really cool platform over there. And it's only getting better. They got a lot of new things prepared for the 2026 season. So let's go ahead, folks, and jump right into Headline Hyjnx. It's Headline Hyjnx. It's our top players that we need to adjust expectations for down the stretch, but we are going to be comparing them to either a Thanksgiving dish or a Thanksgiving happening. And I'll go ahead and kick us off, Jake, since I have 4, you have 3, and I want to start with CeeDee Lamb is the mid mashed potatoes, because when I was younger, Jake, I don't know if you're the same way, I loved mashed potatoes. I would go out to restaurants and I would make sure whatever dish I got, I could get mashed potatoes. Thanksgiving, 95% of my plate was mashed potatoes and gravy. And then you get a little bit older, at least in my opinion, and you kind of realize like stuffing's actually the real show, right? I actually think mashed potatoes can be a little underwhelming, specifically if you're not cooking them right. I know a lot of people almost try to pre-prepare their mashed potatoes too, and sometimes that can get a little sketchy as well. I think CeeDee Lamb is just like these mid-mashed potatoes because we have to adjust expectations as we continue to go down the stretch at this point where CeeDee Lamb, he is no longer the player who was averaging 17.6 points per game last season. He is not the player who's averaging 23.7 fantasy points per game in 2023. In fact, he's averaging just 14.9 points per game this season. George Pickens is averaging 20. That's not to say CeeDee is a bad player. He's not. Nothing has changed other than just the circumstances around him. And Jake, if you remember going back to 2018, we kind of saw something similar. Not as big of a drop-off for Antonio Brown, but Juju Smith-Schuster playing across from him that season had a career year. And while I certainly think GP is a much better player than Juju Smith-Schuster was at that day and age, it's still just the fact he's having more competition. Jake Ferguson getting more involved. Target share right now for CeeDee Lamb, 24.2% target share. You might be thinking, Seth, that's not that bad. It's 21st in the NFL. Like for CeeDee Lamb, that is not the best. Like Justin Jefferson, all these other underperforming wide receivers have at least a better, opportunity share than CeeDee does right now. He's having a little bit of drops. I'm not worried about that, but really, Jake, when we zoom out, CeeDee Lamb is on pace for his lowest receiving yards mark since his rookie season. So I just think while CeeDee Lamb's still good, while mashed potatoes are still good at this day and age, I think there comes a time where we have to just say, hey, he's a low-end wide receiver one the rest of the way. And that's how I view him.
Yeah, mid mashed potatoes is the perfect analogy for him because I like to brag about my mashed potatoes. I think I do a great job with them. So my mashed potatoes are like 2023 CeeDee Lamb. Like you have that upside there. With mashed potatoes, they have the possibility of being phenomenal. And if they're mid, they're still pretty good. Like you said, he's still pretty good. But like you said, it's just not the player that we've gotten in the past. And I'll admit, I wasn't I've been low on CeeDee the past couple of years. I didn't think he could live up to the 2023 production, and we're seeing a prime example of this as well. And I also think your analogy with the Steelers that you gave is a great analogy as well, because we saw the same thing. Antonio Brown was competing with, honestly, both Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. Both of those guys, and Juju, I should say. All three of those guys had very solid seasons, but none of them had a spectacular season. On the flip side, George Pickens is having a spectacular season, but Jake Ferguson's also tight end 4 in points per game amongst the tight end position. And CeeDee's just kind of stuck as this, he's wide receiver 9 in points per game thus far.
Fine.
So it's still solid production, but it's not the CeeDee that we're used to. It's like you go to Thanksgiving and you realize you got boxed mashed potatoes for that day. And it's just, having him in your lineup is not as fun as it felt like it was going to be when you started the season.
Yeah. You ever pour too much milk in your mashed potatoes too? And then they're kind of just a little soupy. Yeah, I've done that a time or two. So that's kind of what CeeDee Lamb reminds me of here. Still fine, but he's not the same guy on the opposite side of the field that can go up and put 35, 40 points on him. Maybe we'll see it eventually, but it's just not in the cards right now, folks. Shout out to our friend Albert checking in saying, good evening, IBT. Good evening to you, Albert. We appreciate you riding with us as always. And Ben, of course, checking in saying mac and cheese is mandatory on his Thanksgiving menu. That and green bean casserole. I'm there with you on the GB casserole. We'll talk a little more of that later. And we also have Spartacus checking in. Spartacus, we'll get to your questions here in just a little while. We do want to get through the rest of these players that we do need to adjust expectations for first. And Jake, I'll turn it over to you. Where are you going for your first comparison?
The green bean casserole is a prime kind of flip right into my thought, and that's Kenneth Walker. He is the green bean casserole. It's going to be there every week, every Thanksgiving. You're going to have the green bean casserole there. And it's never going to be as good as you want it to be. Whoever makes it, they don't put enough fried onions in it. They didn't blanch the green beans. They just put canned green beans in there. Their cream of mushroom soup's a little expired. You can tell it's got that little funkiness to it. And that's Kenneth Walker right now. Yes, things are trending up for him in certain ways. He had his best fantasy output of the season just 2 weeks ago. However, we saw that production go back down this week. And when you just look at his overall usage, it's pretty mid, all things considered. He's kind of peaked this year at a 55%, 56% snap share, peaked at 19 carries, but that was way earlier in the season. He's running more routes, but also somehow not running routes at the same rate that he was previous in the season. So he's just the green bean casserole for me. Another pretty mid dish more often than not. And that's what you're getting out of him. And for a guy that got drafted at the way that he did, everybody was so high on Kenneth Walker coming into the season. And we're sitting here going into week 13 and he's rocking 12 points per game and he's barely an RB2 right now. It's disappointing. And green bean casserole more often than not, unfortunately, is disappointing.
Yeah. Hand up. I will say it that I was way too high on Kenneth Walker coming into the season. And the Seahawks, they're number 1 in team runs play per game, averaging over 30 attempts. The issue is they run at a kind of a slower pace, right? And the opportunities just haven't been there for Ken Walker. Right now, he has a 51.2% opportunity share. That's 30th among RBs, folks. Right now, weighted opportunities, he's in 26 as well at the running back position. And targets, as you mentioned, 42nd, just 19 targets this season. The receiving production is not there. And with just 4 total touchdowns, that's not there either. So he's kind of this I don't want to call him a Philip Lindsay type of player, but that's the role he's kind of playing. If you remember, after Philip Lindsay's breakout season, he was kind of pigeonholed to between the 20s type of guy. That's kind of how it feels with K-Dub3 at this point. I will say, too, on the green bean casserole front, if you can get a good green bean casserole, my goodness, do those clean up. But it's
so good.
It's pretty rare. It is pretty rare. Also, do you like cheese on your green bean casserole? Sometimes I've seen a layer of some cheddar cheese on top of the fried onions. That gets me. I
can see it being good, but it's not for me.
Okay.
And I mean, to be fair, that kind of just rolls into my Kenneth Walker analogy perfectly, because I'm kind of known in my friend group as being the Kenneth Walker hater.
Yeah.
I was a firm Rachaad White over Kenneth Walker guy, and I'm still somehow kind of right, even though I'm wrong.
Yeah,
it's the weird analogy, but I mean, that's his game too. He's got the 5th most breakaway runs in football, right, and the 7th most stuffed runs. That's just what he is. He's a very boomer bust player in a lot of ways. We start to see the receiving production come, and then it just disappears entirely again. he's just so disappointing for so many people. Not for me. I didn't expect him to be good, but for most people, if you have Kenneth Walker at this point, you're like praying for 10 points and you're going to be happy if he gives them to you.
Like, he's still a running back too, but he's a low-end RB2 to mid-end, right?
Yep.
That's kind of where he is. And I talked about this a little bit on the FP recap show on Sunday night over there on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, that this pie for Seattle as a whole in the receiving game is so far down, and JSN is taking up so much of it that really none of their players are valuable outside of JSN. If you want to get a little frisky and fire up AJ Barner as a streamer, I'm okay with that just because tight end position is tough. But outside of that, like, you're starting Kenneth Walker as a low-end RB2, Zach Charbonnet if you're desperate for a flex or a low-end RB2, and that's pretty much it. JSN's the best receiver in football, and roll with it, have fun, right?
Pretty much. I mean, the guy's pacing for one of the best receiving seasons we've ever seen. Like, it doesn't matter what talent you have at running back. When a guy's pacing for that production, the running back position in the room is just not going to get the work it needs.
And a running back that I might prefer over KW3 the rest way, or at least should be in the conversation, is Kenneth Gainwell of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, in my mind, he's the pre-meal walk with your cousins. And I know this has become a really fun analogy over the years, but it's a real thing, right? A lot of people are taking pre-meal walks with the cuz. I might be one of them. Don't tell my mother-in-law that, but
my mother-in-law knows.
The thing about Gainwell here is, like the pre-meal walk, is when you come back to it, you know, when you're going back to the house and getting ready for dinner, you can see clearly. You can see a little better, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't just, eat 5 dinner rolls here, overload my plate with a bunch of mid-mashed potatoes. And I think now I'm starting to see clearly with Kenneth Gainwell that he is really in the Jaylen Warren role from last year and the year before that, where he should be considered almost an every week flex. Right now, what I specifically like is, Jake, not only is he getting a very low stack carry rate, because when teams are seeing Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield, they're like, okay, we don't really have to think of him as much as a threat. Maybe it's a passing game. So he's had great efficiency on the ground. And it's really his receiving metrics that are jumping off the page here. 5th in target share among running backs, 15.1%. That is beautiful. 6th in targets among running backs, 48. 5th in receptions, 42. That is a legit number. Like this guy is probably going to be finishing with somewhere between 60 and 75 catches. That is great. 5th in catch rate as well. So he's making the most of his opportunity. He's also seeing a fair amount of red zone work. So, Jake, while I still think I would prefer Jaylen Warren the rest of the way, it feels like Warren's more in that Najee role where he's kind of the early down thumper, not seeing as much in the receiving game. And Kenneth Gainwell, like, outside of DK Metcalf, Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell is the only other Steeler worth rostering.
Yeah, 100%. I was big on Gainwell going into the season. We're just talking about running backs I don't really like that much. I'm not a Jaylen Warren guy. I think the hype for him, it's a lot like, it's the hype that we got for Tony Pollard for years. And then Pollard actually, delivered on it when he got the full-time opportunity. I just don't see it really happening much with Jaylen Warren. Gainwell's the better pass blocker, so it makes sense for him to be out there in passing situations, especially with Rodgers being so immobile. And even when it's not Rodgers at quarterback, like we've seen with Mason Rudolph recently, the game with Rudolph at quarterback is get the ball out of my hands quick, let a guy make a play. Gainwell's been the guy that's doing that. Everything you touched on there, he's dominating the pass catching work out of the backfield for this team that is throwing the ball, fairly frequently. When we look at, the team run plays per game, they're 28th. They're the exact opposite of Seattle. They're really not running the ball. They're throwing the ball. That's what they're doing. And when you have a guy, he's got the 14th most routes run out of running backs in the entire NFL on the 42nd highest snap share. Like it's very clear what his role is. It's very James White-esque, when James White had those great years with Brady up in New England. Like when Gainwell's in, it's probably a passing down. But at the same time, we saw last week, he broke a 55-yard run, really a 56-yard touchdown that got called back. And, Warren ended up getting the touchdown for the week, but Gainwell did all the work to get him there. And that's just what I think this offense is going to have to do to keep Rodgers healthy now that he's dealing with the broken wrist. Like, they got to get the ball out quick, and Gainwell is more dynamic after the catch, in my opinion.
The thing about Gainwell is, like, I don't think he's a league winner, right? But I think he is a high-end RB3, low-end RB2. And like Jaylen Warren back in 2023, I rode that guy to a championship in my RB2 spot. I think you can do that with Gainwell. I think he's a guy you can plug in almost every single week. The Steelers have a really, really nice schedule down the stretch for opposing running backs. So everyone's been shouting out Jaylen Warren as a buy low target here before the trade deadline closed. I think Gainwell is probably the one we really wanted at a discounted price. And is there an argument to make, Jake, that he's one of the better, if not the best waiver wire ad of the season? Like, I know he hasn't been groundbreaking, but he's been dang solid right now.
Yeah, if you want to count like just playoff push Michael Wilson that we've gotten these last couple of weeks,
that's
like
true.
He's probably up there. But I mean, besides
QJ early on,
early QJ. If you're in a couple leagues like I am, where return yards come into play, Chimere DK's really, showing out for us. But
yeah.
I mean, Gainwell, like the spots to start him have been very, very clear. Especially when you look like Cincinnati gives up a ton of passes to the running backs. Chicago gives up a ton of work to the running backs. Cleveland, Minnesota earlier in the season give up a lot of work to the running backs. Like, it's just always been very clear when to start Gainwell, which is appreciated for a guy who's, been a waiver wire pickup. And I mean, heck, I'm looking at my Yahoo league right now. He's still available in 45% of Yahoo leagues on waivers right now.
That is egregious. That 45% of managers are asleep at the wheel or have turned off their fantasy football notifications for the year. Jake, let's go to your next comparison. And you don't have a pre-dinner J file, but you might have a pre-dinner something else.
Yeah, it's the pre-dinner beers, and those that's Juwan Johnson right now. I mean, this is a guy who has kind of toiled away in New Orleans for a majority of his career, especially with the way that they've used Taysom Hill so much. He's had flashes, but it's never been, consistent. It's never been something that you need to have. But since Tyler Shuck has taken over at quarterback for this team, like, it's very clear that his role is very prominent, especially with the trade of Rashid Shaheed to go on top of it. If you look at the last 5 weeks, he's got double-digit points every single week. I know double-digit points isn't a great specter of what they're scoring, but for the tight end position, he's been at tight end 1 each of the last 5 weeks. Just 2 weeks ago, he's the tight end 3 against Carolina. Like, it's very, very clear, again, what his role is in this offense. He's got the 7th highest first read target share amongst tight ends. He's 7th in targets. He's running most of his snaps out of the slot. So he's truly just a receiver for them playing the tight end position. And he's got the 6th most slot snaps amongst tight ends. His average depth of target is 8th amongst all tight ends. Like, he's not just a dink and dunk guy. He's given the opportunity to be a bit of a field stretcher. He's got the 11th most deep targets amongst all tight ends. Like, he's playing a very distinct role in this offense, and it's so valuable. And these are those pre-dinner beers. You got to have a couple beers before the dinner starts going, especially if you're like my family. We start cooking at 8 a.m.
Oh,
football starts at noon. Dinner's not done till 2 or 3.
One this year too. Backed up an hour.
Yep. But still, dinner's not ready till 2 or 3 o'clock. I'm not going to watch football on Thanksgiving without a couple beers.
Good point.
You need the beers just like you need Juwan Johnson, your tight end slot right now. It's guaranteed production at this rate.
I like the call there from you, Jake. And the interesting thing about Juwan Johnson, and I was worried maybe with Taysom Hill coming back, he would take some of this production. Well, Taysom Hill, they need him in the backfield now, right? Because Alvin Kamara's down. Devin Neal looks like the guy who's going to get a majority of those RB touches, but Taysom Hill is going to be used there. And Juwan Johnson right now, to your point, he's on pace for 835 receiving yards at the tight end position. That's a very solid number. The target share is fine, top 15 among the position. He's 7th among the position in targets with 67, 6.0 per game. So I like what Juwan Johnson's been doing. The big thing for me is I would like to see his red zone targets go up, right?
Yep.
Only 7 this season. That's where he can take that next route and really step up, because right now, 5th in first read target shares as well with 4.4 per game. So they are making it a priority. Like, outside of Chris Olave, we talked about this on the trade deadline winners and losers show, me, you, and Steve, that Juwan Johnson is going to potentially find level ground. Is he someone to you that you have to roster rest of season, or is he still in that streaming tier?
I think you have to roster him rest of season.
Okay.
Like, the Saints have made it very clear that this is a guy that is going to be in their passing situations almost every single time. He's working on an 80% route participation. That number has actually gone down a little bit in recent weeks, but they've also thrown a little bit less recent weeks. So, top 10, if you're running routes at a top 10 rate, you're putting up tight end 1 production. Yeah. And your team got rid of everybody else except for one guy who can catch passes. And with Kamara going down, they're going to throw less to the running back. Devin Neal is not, he's a talented guy. He's not the pass catcher Alvin Kamara is. And I think a lot of those targets are going to end up going Juwan Johnson's way.
Okay. Juwan Johnson for Jacob Perry. I'm going with Chris Rodriguez, who I believe is the cheese tray, because we always have a cheese tray at my mother-in-law's Thanksgiving, and it is delightful, right? Usually we got some good meats on there. We got some good meats cooking, usually some smoked meats, and also usually some like hot pepper cheese, maybe a little, I don't know about you, but I've actually liked Swiss cheese a lot more as I've aged as well.
Big Swiss guy, big Gouda guy.
Okay. Yeah, Gouda ain't bad either. And for me, I don't want to fill up on the cheese tray, but that doesn't stop me from going back there 5, 15, 75 times before dinner, right?
Yeah. And if you walk past it, you're grabbing something.
Right. And I feel the same about Chris Rodriguez, right? I know I probably shouldn't lean on him in my RB2 slot, but I think there's weeks where I can, because you look at what he's been RB3 or better in 4 of the last 5 games. He's averaging 4.7 yards per carry this season. And I think it's pretty abundantly clear, Jake, that we have a shift in the Commanders' backfield where Bill was just not getting it done from an efficiency standpoint, right? I don't love the opportunity that Chris Rodriguez has had this season. You're not going to see anything super jarring that be like, oh man, this is great from Chris Rodriguez. But at the same time, he's been at least doing the most he can with what he's been giving right now. So I'm okay with rolling Chris Rodriguez out there down the stretch. The schedule's hit or miss, but he does have a couple good matchups in there. He's going to give you nothing in the receiving yards game. But as far as the weighted opportunities and as far as the red zone exposure, this guy's up there right now with some of the better RBs. So, he's a plug and play, low end RB2, high end RB3 the rest of the way, I think. And, I don't want to fill up on him. I might be constipated the next day, but he could give me 10 points. And that's what I'm kind of looking for at the running back position right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you're starting Chris Rodriguez in a flex spot or an RB2 spot, that just speaks to the state of your team at this point, which, I mean, doing injury articles this season, I know what a lot of our teams are looking like this year at this point. But like you said, I mean, the usage is solid. He's gotten red zone touches all year, so it's not like a recent week aberration for him. The last 3 weeks, he's got 8 combined red zone touches. Like you said, he's got an RB16 game in there. He's got, another top 30 game, 36 just a couple weeks ago. The usage is pretty clear. He's efficient. It is what it is. It's the cheese tray. It's there. You know what it is. You may have some times where you get absolutely surprised and you find your new favorite cheese. You may pick the right week to start Chris Rodriguez and he gets those, gets that touchdown, gets, 2 touchdowns, maybe, who knows? Things get weird out here. But, it's not, again, you don't want to truly be relying on him if you don't have to.
Yeah, and the thing about him that I like from at least a formation specific scheme point is he only right now has 8 stuff runs on the season. That's 51st among running backs, and he's using the shotgun a lot more than we would think, just because that's really how the Commanders have been finding success on the ground this season. So Chris Rodriguez, I think he's going to see a lot of action, especially down the stretch. They don't anymore right now, at least for the time being, while they're sending Marcus Mariota out there to use his legs a little bit. It's not like Jane Daniels out there who's averaging at one point last season 7 to 8 attempts per game with his legs. So I think Chris Rodriguez is just a guy that should be rostered in all leagues. He's way under-owned right now. So just a guy that I have in the mix, and I'm desperate at running back for myself in a couple leagues. So I'm going to fire him up just like I'm going to eat a crap ton of cheese on Thursday. Jake,
you're right.
Jake, let's go ahead and get to your last comparison player. Who do you have for us?
It's Jacoby Brissett, and this man is the good old honey ham that I'm so used to on Thanksgiving. I mean, we have to just admit that this dude is a quarterback 1 rest of the season. Since he took over the starting job, a lot of people, if you go on his player profiler page and you look up where he's standing in points per game, you go 17th. You're like, oh, that's pretty good. I was expecting it to be a little bit better. And then you realize that's counting 2 games where he took 3 snaps at the end of the game, or, to give Kyler a little breather here and there. Since he took over the starting job in week 6, he's tied with Jalen Hurts for quarterback 4 in points per game.
Wow.
like flat out. And
Wow.
to be fair, you could argue that's 3 since 2 of those, one of the quarterbacks in front of them is Jameis Winston, who has 2 starts.
Sure.
So realistically, like we're talking about a guy who's just scoring at an absolute elite rate. And the thing about honey ham is it makes everything that you're eating on Thanksgiving that much better because you're not dealing with dry ass turkey the entire time.
Thank you.
So when you get the honey ham, when we look at Jacoby Brissett, what he's doing with Michael Wilson of late, which in theory could have been going to Marvin Harrison Jr. When you look at what he's doing with Trey McBride, getting Trey McBride to the reception level that we know he can be at to be the tight end 1, guy who's performing 20 points per game at the tight end position right now. Like Jacoby Brissett is making everything about this offense better and has truly turned them into a competitor. Do I still think that that Kyler Murray is the more talented quarterback? If you're just talking pure talent, yes, I do. Jacoby Brissett is what this team needs right now, just like I need honey ham on my Thanksgiving.
I am with you. I am actually a ham over turkey person just because of the fact what you said. Like, it's kind of hard to screw up a ham. I've had screwed up turkey before many times in my life.
And hey, I'm not judging y'all. When I smoke it, it's still it's dry-ish compared, but also I'm injecting it with like, chicken stock throughout the day and keeping it sprayed. It's a lot of work. The honey ham, it's so hard to make ham, a good old honey ham, especially dry. When it's a turkey that you're cooking for 8 hours, it's inevitably going to be dry.
And Jacoby Brissett, to your point, he has been a quarterback 1 in every single one of his starts, 6 starts this season. And he also hasn't been a 0 in the running game either, right? He's given you a floor of 3 for 20 this past week, had nothing the week before, but 4 for 31 the week before, found the end zone with his legs back in week 9, So he has been really, really solid all the way around. And I agree with you. He just feels like he fits this offense way better. He is actually doing what I think Petzig wants him to do, whether that's making Michael Wilson relevant, or, just finding Trey McBride over the middle, especially in the red zone. He's been doing everything they could ask. The only qualm I have with this, Jake, is there any chance Kyler Murray comes back this year? Because there's just like, what did the Cardinals do in the offseason with him, right? They're going to have to move him, but they're not going to get nearly what they could have 2 years ago when he wanted that new contract.
Yeah, I don't think we see Kyler again this year unless Kyler comes. I think if Kyler comes back, they're going to keep riding Jacoby as the hot hand. I think it's very clear, especially when it's come out that, Jonathan Gannon said he was going to make the switch to Jacoby at quarterback, even if Kyler was healthy and was able to play. And we heard for 2 weeks about how Kyler's going to be back. He's, as soon as he's practicing again, he's the starter. And then they were like, maybe we put this guy on IR. Maybe we don't have to see him anymore.
If there was ever a freaking soft benching, that was it right there. And I'm not someone who, like, I wasn't in the camp that Bryce Young was soft bench or even JJ earlier this season, but that is a soft benching.
Yeah, it very much is. And, it sucks. I'm a huge Kyler guy. He was, one of my guys going into the season, but we can't ignore what Jacoby's done. Like, his worst week so far as a starting quarterback was this past week, which was still 18.7 points, which is tied with Lamar Jackson's season-long point per game. If you told me Jacoby Brissett was going to do what he's done earlier this year, I'd have bet my house that it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, so I agree with you. He is a QB1 the rest of the way. Tampa Bay this week, which is fine. And then it's the Rams and Houston in weeks 14, 15. So I don't love that if there's maybe another option. But then week 16, Atlanta. Week 17, Cincinnati for the Fantasy Football Championship. Sign me up. Just make sure I have maybe someone else on my roster for weeks 14 and 15. And then I think Jacoby Brissett, he could take you home to a Fantasy Football Championship. My final player comparison of the night, it's going to go to Jameson Williams, who, to me, he is the stiff second wind mixed drink, because it could be a good idea, right? We all get our stomachs filled where after dinner, it's tough to keep drinking beer, right, Jake?
You're full.
You and I both like beers kind of earlier in the morning, around noonish maybe as well, to kind of get the day going, get you primed up a little bit. But after you've consumed so much food, it is really, really hard to keep drinking beers and taking in those calories. So I do like a stiff second wind mixed drink every Thanksgiving. However, sometimes it can go south, right? Sometimes it can go south. Sometimes you end up, debating politics with your uncle over this drink. So,
or you decide going outside to play football is actually a good idea when all of us need hip replacements.
Yes, that can also happen. So, and that's kind of what Jameson Williams is here, right? Like, he posted a donut on 3 targets in a great matchup this past week. That's his second donut of the season. Third game under 3 fantasy points as well. However, there's still the opportunity that is there for him because Dan Campbell, since he has taken over play calling duties, make no mistake about it, this guy is trying to get Jameson Williams the ball, not just on deep shots, not just on trick plays, but slants, crossers, everything over the middle. He's trying to find him. He also has 2 of 5 remaining matchups that are plus matchups against some pretty poor opponents. So I think we could see some explosives in those games. But really, to me, Jameson Williams, he is more of a boom bust wide receiver 3, just like the mixed strength. It's going to be good sometimes. It's going to be bad. And that's what wide receiver 3s are at this point in the season, right? Like you're going to get duds. But I don't think he's the wide receiver 2 we drafted him to be or the wide receiver 2 we saw in the middle of the season. I still like Jameson Williams. If the trade deadline's still open and someone's willing to sell him cheap off this performance in week 12, I'm willing to buy him. Yep. But you have to be careful and adjust expectations that if you have him in your lineup, Jake, I want to really go floor heavy the rest of the way around it.
Yep, I was about to say the same thing. He's the prime guy to throw in the flex or wide receiver 3 spot when if you've got a team of like, well, I'll use one of my teams for example. My running backs are Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, and then my other wide receivers are Amon-Ra and JSN.
Oh my goodness.
Do I want to start 3 Lions? No, but if I had Jameson Williams on that roster, I would feel so comfortable throwing him in the flex just because I know those 4 guys I named, that's basically 100 points a week. That's essentially what I'm counting on. And I know Jameson's a guy who can come in there and give me 20. I know he's a guy who can come in there and give me 0. He's very touchdown dependent, as most of these boom bust players are. But like you said, it's the usage of him since Dan Campbell took over the play calling duties is very, very clear. He's even getting red zone targets now, which was not a thing at any other point in his career, especially now that we know that we're not seeing Sam Laporta back in 2025. It's very clear that there's got to be a second pass catching option besides Gibbs. I mean, if last week's any example, Gibbs is just going to do everything, which I'm fine with. My most rostered player. But, Jameson, he's, like you said, he's that glass of bourbon after dinner. This could be a great idea. Or I messed up and I grabbed, one of my bottles of cash strength bourbon that's 60%. I wasn't paying attention and things are going to get weird.
You're a bourbon guy then, huh?
Big old bourbon guy.
Okay. I need to get there. I think my palate is still a bit young and inexperienced. I haven't really found the love for it quite yet. Like every little while, I'll take a little nip of some bourbon on a cold night, right? Kind of gets you feeling warm inside. I do like the feeling of it. But yeah, haven't gotten there quite yet. But what we have gotten to, Jake, is the end of our players that we need to adjust expectations for. Let's get some questions though before we get to the betting cards. And it starts here with our friend Spartacus the Marine. I have Herbert, Burrow, and Brissett. I'd like to keep them for matchups and play keep away. I'd like to keep Jaden Reed, but to do so, I'd have to drop Troy Franklin and Monty for 3 quarterbacks and Reed. I'm dropping Jaden Reed if that is my options. I would also like to keep all those quarterbacks if those are my options, Jake. And I'm not dropping Monty. I'm not dropping Troy Franklin. Jaden Reed at this point is a shot in the dark at best on a Packers team that uses their wide receivers just like the Bills, which is maddening.
Yeah, I'm dropping Jaden Reed there. I love Jaden Reed. I think he's super talented. Dude just can't stay healthy right now. And when it comes to just what he offers the team, like you mentioned, they have 6 dudes they'll rotate in and out at wide receiver. They have Bo Melton, who was a wide receiver. They've converted him to cornerback, and now he's sometimes playing wide receiver again. Like, it's just all over the place. They also throw the ball very infrequently comparatively. They're sitting at 24th in football in pass attempts per game. Like, it's just not a high enough volume passing offense. I actually saw a great response to a Twitter post earlier today where somebody posted, it was an efficiency chart. And they were like, I need somebody to explain this to me. Why does Jordan Love look so good on all these efficiency charts, but the Packers offense doesn't correlate there? And it's because they don't need to throw the ball a ton. Nope. They're a slow paced offense. They want to take time off the clock, and the volume just isn't going to be there consistently. Whereas I think Troy Franklin can be the guy for Bo Nix. Monty, not only am I not dropping him for what he can produce on a week-to-week basis, he's got arguably the highest handcuff upside of any player in football. So for me, I'm pretty comfortable dropping Jaden Reed there. At the same time, with Burrow coming back, assuming you could probably get away with dropping Herbert at this point, but I understand wanting to keep all of them for the matchups.
Yeah, that would be the one I am dropping, I think, of this quarterback group would be Herbert. I'm definitely holding on to Burrow and Brissett. I think that's a really nice 1-2 combo. But Spartacus, we appreciate that. And one more question from Spartacus as well. His team right now, he has Herbo, Burrow, Brissett, CMC, JT, wow, QJ, Woody, Monty, Travion Henderson, Brian Robinson. He's got Puka, Tet, Higgins, Franklin, Tyler Warren, Brock Bowers. So absolutely loaded team here for the Marine. Hoorah. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it. Jake, where are you going here? Obviously, he needs 2 receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex. Obviously, CMC, JT, they're in.
Yep.
Puka and Tet, in my mind, are in.
Yeah, especially Higgins is out this week. So
yes, yep.
Definitely going with those 2 there. And then
it really comes down to the flexes.
I'm starting Bowers. The upside's too high. I love
Bowers
Warren,
Bowers at tight end and then Warren in the flex. Let's assume one of those are going in the tight end spot.
Yeah, I still think I'm going Tet over Warren. There's just the chance that
Tet's already in. Tet's already in here. Tet's in the receiver.
True. Oh,
two flex.
Yes,
yeah.
2 flex. You're right.
Yeah, I'm going Hendo and the other tight end probably personally.
Yeah, I'm probably going the same way there. Again, I'm chasing, knowing the floor that you have with the rest of your team. This is where I do want to do some of that upside chasing.
Okay.
Henderson's got some of the highest upside of any running back on your roster.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Warren has more upside than Troy Franklin, in my personal opinion. So that it would be the lineup I would go with. I'd get Hendo and Warren in the flex.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't hate Troy Franklin this week too against Washington. I think it's a great matchup. We'll talk about that later in the betting cards. And I also, Woody Marks has been solid against Indy. Is not my favorite matchup for him.
Tough.
So that's kind of where I stand there. So I think we're in lockstep here. It's Puka, it's Tet. You're flexing the other tight end that you aren't putting in your tight end spot, and then it's Hendo in the other flex. Here's one from our friend June as well, saying, "Yo, how are y'all doing? I have JT, Rico, Bucky, Judkins, and Harvey. I can only start 4. Who do I sit?" I am not starting Bucky this week personally. I want to see how this shakes out. Baker Mayfield going to be iffy this week. I bet he is up for this one, but at the same time, this isn't a matchup against Arizona that's an absolute cakewalk. So I think for me, Jake, I'm just going to go with the guys who are healthy. I'm going to go JT. I'm going Rico. I'm going Judkins, who was used in the Wildcat a bunch last week, and RJ Harvey, I think, coming off the bye in a matchup against Washington where I'm expecting the Broncos to run away with this one. Those are where I'm going. Do you have any other feelings about it?
Yeah, Harvey and Bucky is more of a coin toss for me.
Okay.
I'm just not a huge RJ Harvey guy. I don't love Denver's offense. I'm still fully on the Sean Payton's an overrated play caller hill. They don't call me Hot Take Jake for nothing. But yeah, I do think he's probably the smart play. I might chase the upside of Bucky though, just because I think with him finally coming back, they're going to make sure he is fully good, fully healthy to go through all of practices this week before they let him back in the lineup. I think there's a reasonable reason. It's the best way reasonable reason to start Bucky over Harvey. But the other 3 are hard locks. So, I mean, honestly, Bucky and Harvey, flip a coin, whichever one lands on, put them in. Okay. Watch, we're going to do all this work. They're both scoring 9.5 points.
Yeah, sounds about right. How about it? Guys, make sure you are June Spartacus. You guys are subscribing so you never miss a show. We're live every Tuesday, 9:35 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you're hanging out with us. We also have, whether we're into NASCAR betting, PGA betting, entertainment betting, college football betting, NFL betting, all the fantasy of those sports as well. We got you locked and loaded right here at IBT. So help us out here. We're trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the season. We can only do that with your help. So thank you so much for that. And Jake, what do you say we go ahead and fire up the betting cards?
Let's get them lighters going.
All right, here we go with Between Bets, baby.
Between bets. Between bets.
It's between bets. It's our week 13 NFL betting cards. We're going to get you locked and loaded for the Sunday specific games here. We didn't want anyone to be overly weighted down on Thursday. We're also going to be putting out a video on demand of this on Friday. So I want to make sure that you guys are locked and loaded for Sunday specifically. Jake will have a couple anytime touchdowns for the Thursday night games, though, if you do want to go with that route. Jake, how was the betting cards for you in week 12? Because for me, I took some heavy favorites with the Baltimore Ravens ATS and the Seattle Seahawks, 1 point away on the Ravens. Should have laid a 12.5. I laid a 13.5. Didn't come through. Also got a little too close to the sun with the Seahawks ATS against the Titans. Should have taken the team total over. I went back and forth with it all week. End up there. Player props were fine. We were 2 for 3 on the player props. Anytime touchdowns, though. I've been dry there. So overall, disappointing week for me. What about yourself, my friend?
Yeah, I basically broke dead even. I think I hit the bets that I wasn't confident in. I missed the ones that I was confident in. It was just one of those weeks. Like I think I ended up like plus 1 unit on like 15 units played. So it was, it's fine. It's one of those weeks where you take it. Certainly some disappointing performances, some surprising performances, and that always ends up giving us cards where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, that happened. That week's over with.
Yep. And with the limited slate on Sunday, I'm scaling back a little bit here. I have just a few plays this week, but they're ones I really, really like. So we'll walk you through them. And it's going to start here for me. I'm going to lay the 6.5 points with the Denver Broncos against the Washington Commanders. This Sunday Night Football. Because really what this comes down to is I want to fade one of the worst teams ATS this season. That is Washington. They have not covered, Jake, in 6 straight games. They've lost by an average of 17.3 points in that span. Washington struggling on offense right now. No Terry McLaurin, likely no JD Honey in this game as well. I think when we get that news that Daniels is not out there, this line could move. So I'd get on this early. Denver is crushing teams with their defense right now. They're allowing the 3rd fewest total yards this season, the lowest yards per play in the NFL at 4.4 yards. They've also allowed the 3rd fewest points this season, 17.5 per game. Denver right now, they're 2-1-1 ATS as an away team. They're 2-1 ATS as a opponent going up against non-conference foes. They've covered in 3 of their last 4 games, including that big win against the Chiefs. And the only time they didn't cover as of late in the last month, that was that weird Thursday night football game against the Raiders. I hate Thursday night football. I can never get it right. So coming off the bye here and getting the Raiders next week, I don't think this is a look-ahead spot at all for the Broncos. I like them. They had a full week to get this game plan together, figure out how are we going to survive life without J.K. Dobbins in the backfield. So I like the Denver Broncos minus 6.5. What do you have here in the ATS market, Jake?
Yeah. First off, I want to say I'm all over this play. We may still see Terry McLaurin. I don't think it's going to matter. So there were 2 plays that really stood out to me when I was looking. One of those being Cincinnati Bengals +7 against the Baltimore Ravens. Burrow's back. That's 90% of the battle. But the other side is also looking at the Ravens injury report. It's not looking great right now. Lamar didn't practice today with an ankle injury. Kyle Hamilton didn't practice with an ankle injury. Lamar's a toe injury. So Lamar, I do think goes, but this offense is clearly not operating the way that it's supposed to. That said, the Bengals defense is terrible, but also it's a Joe Burrow return game on Thanksgiving. We love those return stories, especially, on these weeks like this. Just an absolutely fun play. So I'm going to be all over Cincinnati on that line. And then the other play I have this week that I like a lot is Jacksonville minus 6.5 versus Tennessee. I mean, the Tennessee's the worst team in football. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Have they been better since Brian Callahan hasn't been calling plays? A little bit. But they're still an extremely beatable team. Jacksonville has the ability to just snap at any single point, and Tennessee just doesn't have the skill players, the talent to stop a team like Jacksonville if they're going on all cylinders, and I think that's exactly what we're going to get this week.
Alec Manor is banged up coming into this one. I'll talk about a play that might lend itself towards later on. I would maybe maybe look at a Jaguars team total, talking from the guy who laid the points last week with the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, that was just too big of a line. It was 13.5, but the trend said to lay it, and I went with them, and it did burn me. But yeah, I do like the Jags in this spot as well. You also have a money line play this week Jake, potential upset brewing there for the Cardinals?
Yeah, I'm going with the Cardinals over Tampa. You mentioned Baker's injury earlier. I really would be shocked if we see Baker this week. If this shoulder injury is severe enough that they had to get an MRI on it, that's one thing. If he plays, that's another thing. No tears. It's just a mild AC joint sprain. The problem is, though, if Baker, in my opinion, Baker's probably going to take all the practice snaps or a majority of the practice snaps this week. If Baker takes one bad hit and has to come out of this game, and we're looking at a Teddy Bridgewater coming into the game situation again, I don't think that Tampa has what it takes to truly compete here. We've seen their running back room operate arguably a little bit more effectively just with the split of Sean Tucker and Rashad. Now that Bucky's back in the picture, that room gets weird. Can any of them really get hot? Godwin's back, but him being back is back in the slot, which is eating away from McBuka in the slot, which is where you really want him. I think in a way for this week, the players returning for Tampa almost hurt the offense a little bit. And if we get word that Baker is not able to play this week, I wouldn't be surprised to see this line shift close to even, if not flip, to Arizona being the favorite.
It could be. It very, very well could be, man. It was one of those situations where Tampa did not look good in prime time. I'm surprised, honestly, that they're laying this many points, and you can get the Arizona Cardinals on a money line at this good of a value. So I'm with you here. I like what Jacoby Brissett's been doing. We talked about it at the top of the show as well. So I like that play. And you also have a total here coming out there in my favorite city and one of your favorite cities as well.
Yeah, I'm going Buffalo against Pittsburgh. I'm taking the under here. Both of these teams kind of suck right now. Like, there's really neither of them are producing at the skill level that we know that they can.
Sure.
Buffalo is desperate for wide receiver help, so they're adding the corpse of Brandon Cooks to the roster to hope that fixes things.
The freaking Bills. I bet on Shavers last week on Thursday Night Football, not a dang catch.
Tough. But yeah, I just don't trust either of these offenses to come out. And, Pittsburgh's defense can be pretty stout. Buffalo's defense can show up and perform. I truly think this is one of those games where you look at that line at 47.5 and you're like, okay, this is going to be a high scoring game. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if this game finished like 12-6 and we just get 6 field goals and nothing else.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get to player props. I got 2 for you this week. The first one, it's a little down and dirty, but we're going John Metchie III over receiving yards. Metchie has logged the most snaps over the past 2 weeks for the New York Jets. He's found the end zone in both those games. He's had a 26% target share last week with Tyrod Taylor, or Tyrod, as apparently I have been saying Tyrod Taylor's name wrong his entire life. I got called out in the comments over on the FP channel earlier this week for it, but I'm going to keep saying Tyrod because it just sounds better, and that's what I've been saying my whole life. So either way, I expect John Metchie from Tyrod to get a ton of work here. And with how AD Mitchell's been performing with his opportunity, I think maybe this could even increase. He's been the team's top target earner the last couple weeks here. And the team's top target earner against the Falcons has cleared this line in every single game this season, averaging 96 yards over the past month specifically. So I think John Metchie has a big day once again. I also take a little tight end action for the Tennessee Titans. We mentioned Alec Manor. He's banged up coming into this one. I'm going back to the well. I've bet Okonkwo over receiving yards twice this season, and it's paid off for me. I've also bet Gunnar Helm on an anytime touchdown earlier this year, and it paid off for me. And apparently I should have been betting Gunnar Helm for a while because this guy has been really, really solid. And tight ends have been smashing against the Jaguars. We just saw what Trey McBride did to him. But the Jags have actually allowed the most targets and receptions to opposing tight ends over the past month, the second most receiving yards in that span as well to the big men. Starting tight ends have cleared the receiving yards prop in 8 of the last 9 games against them. Cam Ward, he's been targeting tight ends at a 24.1% target rate this season, and that number has only increased since Calvin Ridley has been out of the mix. So Gunnar Helm, I talked about how good he's been. His BP projected line of 17.5, he's hit in 4 of his last 5 games, averaging 4.2 targets, 30.8 receiving yards in that span. And Okonkwo, this is a guy who He's hit his projected line of 23.5 yards in 3 of his last 5 games, 2 in a row since Ridley's gone down, averaging 3.2 targets, 31.8 yards receiving. So I do like Helm more. We saw a ton of Gunnar Helm last week, Jake, especially when the Titans were trying to play catch up there against the Seahawks. I think they're trying to play catch up in this one once again. And I do like Chig, but I like Helm more. It'll probably be a 2-unit play on Helm for me, probably about 1.5 units, maybe a unit play on Okonkwo. What do you have for the player props, my friend?
Yeah, so I'm sticking with a couple quarterbacks over here. So I'm going with Matt Stafford over 252.5 passing yards.
Don't hate that.
This is a number that he's beaten 3 of his last 4 games. When it comes to Carolina, yes, they can be a pretty solid pass defense. However, the injuries are starting to mount up for them a little bit. Both Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace missed last week. So if that pace continues, which given that they were DNPs throughout all week, I'm not expecting much out of that this week. Trevon Moehrig, his 1-game suspension for a little bit of a low blow on Juwan Jennings. So their defensive back room is going to take a hit there. And, you know, if there's one thing I've learned, Matt Stafford, when everybody kind of looks at Carolina as a trap game right now, they're like just good enough to give teams struggles, but rarely good enough to like truly upset somebody. Those are the ones where everybody, especially with the Rams over the last like 10 years, it feels like have been like, this is a trap game for them. Give me Matt Stafford overs in trap games every single time, because even if they lose, it's not going to be his fault. He's going to go for like 350 and 4, and the defense is just going to blow it somehow. Okay.
And you also have a play on Shedeur Sanders. What do you have for him?
I do. I'm going Shedeur throwing an interception, essentially. I still don't think he's very good. I saw some headlines kind of propping up his play. I think the exact word I saw was Sanders shines in his first start on like a 50.
First Browns starter to win in his first start for their time in Cleveland, since like 2000 or 2001. So I think that's part of that, right?
It for sure is. Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about a guy. So yes, no snaps with the first team offense, back end fill-in type situation for him here when it comes to his first performance, but dude's barely completing 50% of his passes. He's thrown an interception in both games. This is not an easy matchup by any means. You know, on paper, is it the hardest matchup in the world? No, but the 49ers defense have the ability to get takeaways. We saw it just this past Monday night.
Right,
like,
Sean.
They have the ability to take the ball away from the opposing quarterbacks. They're getting healthier, which is scary for a lot of teams that are playing San Francisco right now. There was a stretch there where everybody was like, oh, San Francisco's done for. Kyle Shanahan's finally getting fired. And then all of a sudden they're 8-4, still somehow third in their own division, because that's just how good this division is. But this team and a Shanahan defense, I feel like, is going to give Sanders so many problems that he's more than likely going to throw a pick here, which is why it's minus 202. It's like,
you're drinking juice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not quite in lock territory, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. I wouldn't hate, going with like maybe a Geno Smith interception parlay with Shedeur, because Geno's thrown so many, or even like, Tyler Shuck's probably due to throw one here soon as well. So like, I think there's different ways you can go with this, or just, drink the juice straight. And, it's like our friend over on the back road always says, Rod Villagomez, you only drink the juice if you lose, baby. And I don't think this one's losing. So, Jake, I like those calls for you. Let's go ahead and round out the program with our touchdown calls of the week. And let's update the touchdown call leaderboard presented by our friends over at Dynasty Decks. Guys, if you're trying to remember your fantasy football season that was when you took home the championship, or maybe even just got second, but you want to remember, hey, that's the best season I've ever had, you can do it with Dynasty Decks. Even if you have a basketball league, a golf tournament, any type of thing that you can remember it by, go over there to dynastydex.com. You can make sure that you're getting invested with them. I know some leagues are going to be ending soon. This is a great way to reward your winner. It's better than a trophy because you get a new one every single year. You can start stacking them up on the shelf there. And on the touchdown call contest leaderboard, Jake, really, really weird week for us where the entire left side of the board, Trav, Rob, James, Steven, myself, none of us hit touchdowns. It was crazy. It was terrible. I lost a lot of money on touchdowns last week. And then the right side of the board came to play, though. Eric moves up. He ties me with 14 touchdowns. Trash with 12. You are at 12 now with a couple. And then Ben with a big week. He got 3 touchdowns from one player. So congrats to Ben, Jake, Trash, yourself, everybody over there. There's still time, once again, to get invested in the touchdown call contest if you want. You can just go over to the In Between Media website. You can join the IBT football family. Link to that in the episode description. You get access into the memorabilia giveaways. You get access to ask us all the questions you want in the Discord. You can also get our official picks and predictions locked and loaded there every week as well, and access into the TD call contest where you can get a plaque if you are the winner and some IBT media swag. Jake, let's start out with you. Where are you going for your touchdown calls of the week?
Yeah, I'm going with Javonte Williams anytime touchdown. You can get that at -150 were the best odds I found at Bet365. I'm a Javonte Williams hater. This is apparently the episode of we talk about running backs that Jake doesn't really like, but I mean, he's stepping up in a really, really big way for this team. He's on a bit of a touchdown drought. Hasn't had one in 3 weeks. It's starting to feel like a he's due situation. But then you also have to look at the matchup. It's Kansas City. How do you beat Kansas City traditionally? You run the ball. You run the ball away from Chris Jones, but you run the ball. It's something that certainly can be done when it comes to, if you look at their team as a whole, they give up 10 rushing touchdowns on the season and 11 passing touchdowns. Most team splits are a lot wider than that, one way or the other. So this is a team that you can beat on the ground. So Javonte feels like a really good play this week.
Okay, and your second touchdown call of the week is also coming on Thursday.
It is. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown, +110. If you can get Amon-Ra to score a touchdown at plus money when nobody else has him at plus money, you take it at plus money. So get on over to DraftKings. They have plus money right now for this play. He scored a touchdown this week. He scored a touchdown 2 weeks ago. If we follow the current trend, he's actually not going to score one because he's been an every other week guy over these past few weeks. But again, it's just a situation where matchup's too good for me to pass up for an Amon-Ra type player. It's a no-brainer, again, at plus money. When I saw Amon-Ra was at plus money, it didn't matter who he was playing. I was picking him this week.
Okay, I like that. For me, I'm going with my first Christian McCaffrey play of the season. Anytime touchdown, -139. I love that number. I'm probably having 3 to 4 units on this play right here because this is a great price tag for someone in CMC who's found the end zone in 8 of 12 games this season. And with how Brock Purdy was looking last week, I think they're going to want to keep the ball in CMC's hands when they get close to the end zone, specifically because Myles Garrett, he is approaching that sack record, and he is lurking right now, man. He is absolutely lurking. CMC has also found pay dirt in 5 of 7 road games this season and is averaging 18.1 rushing attempts, 8.6 targets per game. That is a massive opportunity share. He has seen the second most touches inside the 20 among running backs, the most inside the 15, the most inside the 10, the second most inside the 5. The Browns have allowed touchdowns to running backs in 3 straight games, 2 of those coming through the air. So I think CMC has multiple outs here with the receiving work he's getting. And then I'm going back to down in Dirtyville, baby. Give me John Metchie III anytime touchdown, 8-1 at Bet365. Part of this, Jake, is the number. He opened at +330 at FanDuel, so to get 8-1 over at 365 was a gift. So it's a sprinkle for me. Like, this is under a half a unit play. But at the same time, Atlanta has allowed the second most receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers over the past month, 8th. We know Metchie, he has also found the end zone 2 weeks in a row. Right now, Atlanta also given up 5 touchdowns this season, 2 wide receivers out of the slot. That's where Metchie is running 43% of his snaps out of since joining the Jets. He jumped all the way up to, as I mentioned, +3 or down to +330 at FanDuel. So I love 8-1 on the value there. So, Jake, love all the calls you came with this week, both in the fantasy stretch and in the betting markets. Shout out to our friend Ben, who's saying, thank you, Sonic. That's who it was. Gibbs got him 3 touchdowns. Good for you, Ben. You got a chance to move up the board finally. And our boy Herm, CH Herms, checking in saying, love you both. Herms,
we love you.
Yeah, haven't seen my boy Herms in a minute, but always thinking about you, man. Hope you have a great holiday with your family down there in the great state of Maryland. Got to visit with Herms. I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was last year. Last spring, went down there and saw him in Frederick. So Appreciate everyone who makes time for us here on the In Between Fantasy Football podcast. The easiest way to support us, please give this video a thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. We've got so much great content coming out for you. We've got NFL and fantasy football betting and fantasy advice for college football betting, NASCAR betting, PGA betting, entertainment betting, all to help you cash more and to enjoy the ride along the way. Also, be sure to check out inbetweenmedia.com. We got some dope written content. Ton of movie reviews that have just been dropping over the last couple of weeks. We also have a lot of fantasy football, college football content out for this week in particular. A lot of good entertainment stuff on the channel right now. Jake, you just did a Wicked rewatch. You're going to do a reaction video to the new Wicked movie coming up. Also, your picks and predictions for November movies. Those have been out. We also just did a ranking the new 2025 Christmas movies coming out that we just put out a video on demand on the channel. So, Jake, in addition to Popcorn Root Beer, your entertainment betting show, in addition to the 19th hole coming out here in January when the PGA season comes back, what else are you working on outside of IBT right now?
Yeah, so I am working over with Fantasy Alarm. So we're on kind of the hiatus. It's the end of the 2025 golf season. So waiting for the original tournaments to kick up. So if you guys are into golf DFS at all, you can find me over at Fantasy Alarm doing that. I'm also doing all of the injury report articles over there as well.
That's the Lord's work, my friend.
It's a lot of work. There's so many this year. But yeah, that's mostly where you can find me right now outside of IBT. But hey, we got a lot of good Popcorn and Root Beer episodes coming up. So you guys don't want to miss them.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. It's been a really, really fun season, really busy between over here at IBT, over at the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel as well. But we're so grateful for all support between all the networks that we're on. For Jake Perry, I'm Seth Woolcock. Thank you so much once again for watching. Happy Thanksgiving. If you're drinking this weekend, please don't drive and keep it in between until next time, y'all. Thank you so much.